Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to call the regular meeting of the Del Mar College Board of Regents to order at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, December 13th. Thank you all for being here today. I'm going to call roll to establish a quorum. Dr. Adami?
Here.
Regent Averett? Mr. Bennett could not be with us today. Mr. Garza? Regent Hutchison? Come on up here. Oh, ma'am. You're not quite there yet. Regent Kelly?
Here.
Dr. Turner?
Here.
Dr. Villarreal?
Here.
I'm Carol Scott. We have a quorum and can conduct business. Would like you all to join me in this moment of silence in honor of Janelle Bennett. Regent Bennett's wife passed away shortly after Thanksgiving, and just wanted you to all remember the Bennett family in your thoughts and prayers during this time. Thank you. And Regent Hutchison, as your last official act, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? As is our tradition at Del Mar, we start every meeting by reading the Del Mar College Vision Statement. Please join us. Del Mar College will be the premier choice for life-changing educational opportunities provided by responsive, innovative faculty and staff who empower students to improve local and global communities. Thank you. Del Mar College is streaming live audio and video from the official Board of Regents meeting on the college's website in real time, with the exception of portions of the meeting considered as closed session by statute. We now have the opportunity for general public comment. Is there anyone to make comment on an item not on the agenda today? Seeing none, we will move on with our recognitions. We want to acknowledge our outgoing members of the Board of Regents. As I said, Regent Bennett couldn't be with us today. He was sworn in December of 2016 and served those 6 full years on his term. He was chair, most recently chair of our audit committee, and I think we would all agree that Regent Bennett loved to delve into the details of Del Mar College, and we had to appreciate the work that he did on behalf of our students and our voters and our taxpayers. We will miss him on the board, and we wish him and his family the best during this difficult time. We also want to recognize Susan Hutchison for her service on the board. Susan was first sworn in to fill an unexpired term in December of 2008 and has served with distinction during that time. And so, Susan, we want to wish you well and thank you for your dedication to our students. Prior to serving on the Board of Regents, you also served on our foundation and continued to overlap and serve both on the Foundation Board of Trustees and on the Board of Regents for a good period of time. And you're a trustee emeritus, is that correct, of the foundation? So thank you for all of your years of dedication. Would invite board members to share a remembrance of Regent Bennett or Regent Hutchison and congratulate them for their service. Dr. Adami, I'm going to start with you.
You know, I was talking to Susan earlier today, and we were talking about how the length of time that he was on the board. And I'm like, well, you know, that time passed by really quick. And then, you know, so I've been serving 6 months longer than her. So I've been on the board quite a long time. You know, it's, you know, one thing about service to community, you know, Regent Bennett and Regent Hutchison epitomize what it is to give of themselves to the community. And I want to thank them for the job, the wonderful job they've done, and for being a part of this strong board. Thank you.
The other Regents? Mr. Kelly.
A couple of years ago, when I was considering applying for an unexpired term, I didn't know Ed Bennett. Susan by her reputation, extraordinary attorney. And he was certainly one of the reasons why I felt as though I would fit on this board. I have not been disappointed. I've gotten to know Ed from service on the board, come to admire him greatly. Our prayers are with him.
Any other Regents like to make? Mr. Garza?
Yeah, like the other Regents, I've enjoyed serving with Susan and certainly with Bennett, who's not with us today. I appreciate the contributions that Ed given to us from a financial standpoint, accounting standpoints. Susan, I think I first met you when you were serving on the TERS, the downtown TERS, and I was on the city council, and I remember you coming in after Gabe was no longer able to serve on the TERS board, and appreciate your contribution certainly to the downtown TERS, and I've learned a great deal from you serving on the Delmar board. I know that sometimes I've lost some ideas, and we get a chance to, I've had a chance to exchange thoughts, and so again, appreciate your contribution to Delmar College. Thank you.
Dr. Turner?
I just want to get to know you a little bit better, serving on the ethics, our board policy, all enjoyable working together. Ed Bennett, he encouraged me to run for this position, and he spent several hours teaching math to me. So I was an expert on the budget and how all the departments run and so forth. So I really appreciate him and all his numbers in his head. You will be greatly missed.
Libby?
Then I've known you for many years, public service, other work in communities. Like Bill, because you were on this board, it gave me a little bit more of encouragement and faith to apply. And in working with you more closely and watching you, I think you certainly taught me how to handle things with some grace and patience and thoroughness. And I very much appreciate that about you and your friendship. You know, Mr. Bennett, I did not know him before, and I too have grown to love and admire him. And I think this board, in large part due to the both of you all, is a really good example how people from different backgrounds and even with different approaches to solving problems can come together with mutual respect and admiration and get the job done and truly care about each other. So my absolute best wishes.
Dr. Gould?
Susan, and of course, Mr. Bennett, I wish he were here. I also send my love and prayers for his family. I know it's a really difficult time. Being able to serve on this board is really an honor, mostly not only because of what we can do for the college, but because of the relationships that we are able to create among each other. And you, not only are you a great regent, but you're a great person. And I just find your skill, your knowledge on one aspect is so admirable, but what's even better is just your thoughtfulness, your purpose in wanting to do good things for our community. And I just feel like I'm a better person because I know you. So thank you so much.
That's why I wanted you to sit up here. You gotta be able to bask in the glory for a few minutes. Do you have any words, Susan?
Still don't remember. All of those 14 years ago, making the decision to be on the board was a difficult decision. And I think it's because I overthought it, as I intend to do. And I thought in terms of, I've really got to do a lot of homework. I need to forward on the learning curve and really understand what's going on. This is going to take a lot of time, and I didn't halfway. I knew that was going to be an overwhelming, perhaps, challenge. But what I underestimated that should have made it an easy decision was what a part of this premier and the immeasurable impact it has on this community. I've come to know more and more every day, every time that I work with it. And I mean, the eager students and the dedicated innovative administration. It's just overwhelming. And also, though, I want to speak to this board about how I think uniquely can work. Very dedicated group that has a focus and always has that mission that we in mind, and that seems to be the line that keeps us on track. The faces have changed pretty much of the people who are in these seats, except for Dr. Nick here, who did precede me. But that mutual respect that we've been able to have, and I also have some confidence that that's going to continue, that we're going to continue. The college is going to continue to have a board that makes decisions that are well-informed, reasonably debated, and discussed with mutual respect. And I do think there was an allusion to the code of ethics. If I can be unabashedly proud of having gotten us a solid code of ethics that maybe everybody doesn't know that we recommit to every year. And I think it's made that guideline that we keep that foremost. And so it allows it to go through that decision making. But in addition to being a fabulous board and operating more functionally than many, many boards I've been on, it's a cliche, but it has also been a family and operates with, again, that one value system of knowing or trying to figure out what is best for the college. During our service on this board, many of us on this board have suffered a lot of losses, illnesses, and tragedies and challenges, and yet we showed up, and the college didn't suffer because of it, I feel. And we were able to do that because of the support of the rest of the board, who continued to have that concern and to lift us up and to have our back. And so, this board was a lifeline for me at one point, and I got that personally out of it, and I just have to say thank you to people I probably never said thank you to. So now 14 years later, it's making another difficult decision, and that is to end my service on the board. But I'm able to do that because I truly do think it's time for a new energy and new voices, and I know that we have this ship on the right course and that you'll be able to take over after us. And I do think that the reality and maybe the separation anxiety of not being on the board anymore is going to hit me, I think, Friday night during graduation. And when I realize that hundreds of those students are going to cross that stage without getting my handshake. But I love to think about them doing that and those faces that I got to see, and as they embark on their new adventures, and they're so full of all the wonder of what's to come. And I share something with those students, and that's that Del Mar College did change my life. So thank you all for allowing me to serve and to contribute as much as my heart as I could. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Susan. We will miss your wise counsel. We will miss your discernment, and we will miss your smile and your positive attitude. You're one of those truly unique and special voices at this table, and we will miss you. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Now you get to sit up here and watch. We have 2 new regents and 1 returning regent who are going to now take their oath of office as duly elected regents. Regent Libby Averett was re-elected unopposed in this most recent election. And then Regent-elect David Loeb will join us as well. And unfortunately, Regent-elect Carl Krull and his wife both came down with COVID and could not join us today, didn't feel it would be prudent for them to join us today. And so we will administer his oath of office at a future point in time. But we're going to ask Mr. Law, actually, I'm going to, who's in charge of, now who's in charge? We're going to bring David and Libby forward. Jessica is going to do that.
Jessica Alanis will take over.
Great, thank you, Jessica.
After you administer your oath, you will have some paperwork to sign. So just a reminder, don't leave. Yes. If you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Regent of the Del Mar College District of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. Congratulations. Your signature.
While they do their paperwork, we will take a brief recess. It is 1:16 p.m. We will reconvene our board meeting at 1:21 p.m. Are we back on? Is everything good? Jason, are we back on? Great, thank you. We'll make sure that our audio feed is on. It is, by our bylaws, the board reorganizes itself following the election of regents in the even-numbered years. So with that, we are going to elect new officers, or elect officers for the board. And the first officer we would be electing is chair. Are there nominations for chair of the board?
I would like to nominate Carol Scott.
Oh, boy, thank you, Mr. Kelly.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt that motion by acclamation?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Adami. Second by Mr. Kelly. All those in favor of adopting Carol Scott as chair of the board, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Keep my hands. Thank you very much. I appreciate the confidence in you all and have enjoyed doing this work. I think Dr. Escamilla and I have worked together as a good team. That's what we tell people. So I guess we fake it till we make it or something. I'm not sure. Thank you all for your confidence. I appreciate it. And now it's time to elect our first vice chair. Is there a nomination for the election of first vice chair? Dr. Villarreal?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Dr. Nick Adame for the first vice chair.
Thank you. Any other nominations for first vice chair? With that, is there, maybe turn that motion into a motion by acclamation, Dr. Villarreal?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a second to that?
Second.
I think I heard Ms. Averett first, but I'm not sure.
Be quick around here, Dave.
Got to be quick. All those in favor of electing Dr. Adami as first vice chair by acclamation, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you, Dr. Adami. You didn't vote, so is that a unanimous vote? Or it's a unanimous vote. Okay, thank you, Dr. Adami. And our second vice chair, is there a nomination for second vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Libby Abert.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Is there any other nominations for second vice chair? Seeing none, would you turn that into a motion by acclamation?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Is there a second to that motion? Rudy got in there first. I heard it over there. I wasn't sure if you and David were fighting for the second. All those in favor of adopting Libby Averett as second vice chair, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Congratulations, Ms. Averett. And nomination for secretary for the board.
I'd like to nominate Rudy Garza.
Thank you. There's a second already. Are there any other nominations for secretary? If not, with that motion by acclamation, is there, that motion is second to adopt, elect Mr. Garza as secretary. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, officers. Delia will be in touch with you as we schedule our agenda prep meetings, agenda prep / executive committee meetings monthly. We mostly use those for agenda prep, but every once in a while we will have an executive meeting to work on some issues in advance of the board. But Delia will work with you to get those calendared on your calendar for the rest of the year. Thank you all for confidence in your executive committee, and we look forward to serving you. We also look forward to the opportunity to bring Mr. Krull on board again in the next couple of weeks, and we'll get him sworn in and ready to go. We now have the distinct honor of thanking the fabulous Del Mar College student musicians who entertained us over lunch. We're very excited. We want to thank you all for those musical performances, and thank your professors and conductors for bringing you here today. I understand that some of you came racing over straight from finals. We appreciate that. We hope you didn't hurry through because an A is much more important than entertaining us. But thank you all for your effort to be here today and to entertain us all. And I'm going to look for, is it Dr. Halcomb is going to do the introductions? Dr. Halcomb.
Today we are joined by Del Mar College of through their skills by performance. The performance consisted of the low brass ensemble under the direction of Dr. Donald Penson, low brass ensemble director, and the concert choir under the direction of Dr. Daniel Arredondo, concert choir director. The students' musical skills and proficiency are evident by their performances. We commend Dr. Daniel Arredondo, Dr. Donald Penson, and the music faculty for their instrumental mentoring of their students by enriching their creativity and their artistic endeavors to enhance their music talents. So I'm going to call out each student's name. Raise your hand when I call your name so we know who you are. Ariana Adame Gonzalez. Oh, she went to a final. Darn, okay. Gabriela Alvarado. James Austin. Oh, okay. Juan Oscar Davila. Rolando Esquivel. Ana Colchado. Aiden Gomez. Another final, I guess. Aiden Lopez, Christian Moana, Marisol Salazar, Alexis Saldana, Jackson Smith, Raul Solis, Christopher Ezeguirre. Final. Okay, we're interfering with finals today. Then we have low brass ensemble, Matthew Gomez, David Hernandez, Rudy Ramos, Jonathan Colunga, and Jason Prado. And I would like to thank them again for displaying their talents and also the directors as well. Thank you so much today.
Thank you again for being here, students. How many band or choir students are out in the audience? How many? A few? Come on, raise your, there we go, former band and choir students. Congratulations. We have a real appreciation for your talents and for your performance today, and we know that what goes into that is a lot of hours in the practice room, a lot of hours with your instructors, a lot of hours from the time you were probably in 4th or 5th or 6th grade on up. So we very much appreciate you all being here today and sharing your talents. And to Dr. Arredondo and Dr. Pinson, thank you very much for organizing this for us. We really appreciated seeing our students today. Thank you. And Dr. Halcomb has another recognition for us today.
Yes, at the Pathways Institute on November 15th, Dr. Mark Escamilla accepted the Rose Award in recognition of scaling excellence, and we got this nice award. We were recognized for scaling essential practices associated with transforming the college culture through Texas Pathways to become more student-centered and responsive to improving the student experience. Over the past 5 years, Del Mar College has stood out as an exemplar in the growth of essential practices in each of the 4 pillars of the Texas Pathways strategy. Del Mar College ranks first in the state in the growth of scaling the essential practices of Pillar 2 of the pathways, helping students choose and enter a program pathway. We were second in the growth of scaling the essential practices of Pillar 1, mapping pathways to student end goals, and Pillar 4, ensuring the students are learning. Then we were fourth in the growth of scaling the essential practices of Pillar 3, keeping students on path. As you can see, the reform efforts of Del Mar College are expansive and far-reaching. This means that the student experience at Del Mar College has been dramatically altered through the implementation of Texas Pathways. Our Pathways Steering Committee, deans, chairs, faculty, and staff all work diligently as a team college-wide to develop pathways for student success. We have a few representatives from these groups here today. I would like them to please stand. And if you're here today representing Pathways, please stand. You can see it's a large group. And I appreciate all the hard work each person at this college has put into it. And they're just a small representative sample of the larger group to make this happen. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Jonda, and to all the members of the Pathways leadership team and beyond, because this was a college-wide effort that took some time to develop. And the comment that I'd really like to focus on is that the Pathways initiative here at the state of Texas is something that's really, really important. It took us some time to come aboard, and that was largely because of me. I was slow on the shift to come into the Pathways movement, but once we did, our team took off and took off in a dramatic fashion and and as a result has been recognized. So I was smart enough to finally get everybody together and get moving and get out of their way, like I like to say, because great things happen. The final point is that, as was mentioned at the leadership conference at the coordinating board last week, we are not aspiring to be like Europe, where they are often tracked, and or other countries where they are often tracked, students are tracked early on. This is a nuanced initiative that brings students forward into a particular path with the idea that there will be an evolution and they will likely leave that path at some way, that pathway of study, that is. And so there's a difference, it's a nuanced way. I dare say that the state of Texas is leading the country. And since, and as I like to say, since we're leading the state of Texas in many ways, therefore the rest of the state, the rest of the nation also is following the great leadership and the great talent of Del Mar College. Thank you for that opportunity, and thank you for allowing me to pitch in a couple of comments, Dr.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Congratulations again to all those involved. David, you're the new guy at the table. After the Regents attend a conference, statewide or national conference, we always have an opportunity for Regents to share what they have learned under Regents Report. And so Regent Averett and myself and Regent-elect Loeb were able to attend the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board Leadership Conference this past December 7th and 8th. And so we wanted to give an opportunity for you to talk about that conference and what you might have learned. Libby, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I, as always, appreciate the opportunity to have attended the conference, and I'll keep it short. It's more of an overall impression that I had from the conference, and that is, again, feeling so incredibly proud to be part of Del Mar College, because much of what was discussed, we're already ahead of the game. And I can't thank Dr. Escamilla and Chairwoman Scott enough for serving on the Finance Commission. I think that has positioned us really well to know what's coming for the future and to be prepared for what's coming. And we're already there. We're already past where so many folks are. And many of the topics of conversations, they were not new information for me, because Dr. Escamilla, the staff and faculty, Everybody, I know lots of hours go into you all preparing for our meetings where we show up for an afternoon, but you all have worked hard in anticipation of that. You keep us really well informed. So as I'm sitting there and going to several of the different sessions, it wasn't the first time I had heard those things. And the sessions on, basically how to be a good regent was not new information either. It's something that we review every year, that we're committed to every year, and it just felt really good to not walk away from that conference thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to go talk to Dr. Escamilla about this, and this, because I've never heard him utter these things. It was all information that we have talked about and been educated about, and it's just so nice to be at the lead of so many of those conversations. So thank you.
Thank you. David?
I would echo what Libby said, and it was really nice to hear that we're at the cutting edge. And I think one of the things that on the drive back, I was thinking about was, okay, everybody's getting ready to catch up to us, because having been around it tangentially from the city, these are the things that we've been working on as a community for the last decade, 12 years. And it's nice to see that the state will hopefully finally start chipping in and paying their share of doing that. But for us, it has been an advantage that we've had. And so I think we have to come away with this of, okay, great, they're going to start paying us for doing the work they should have been doing. But what do we invest in then to build it even better? I got a lot of the new Regent training, and they were very clear that I needed to read my whole packet. And I saw Delia at the going away, or the morning, and she said, "Oh, I got to get back to town so I can send out your packet." And so she sends the packet, and I open it up, and it's the full audit report. So I figured you all were hazing me by sending me to mandatory training where they repeated over and over again, read your full packet, and then I get the audit report for my first one. So I've read the whole packet. So, but yeah, it was great to get to know the staff and be there when they got an award for doing really great work. People who don't know that, I mean, that's. I have a pet peeve story about transfer credit in college, where I took a graduate level course, and then my regular college wouldn't take it, and so their work on making sure that CE classes can convert to associate's degree credit is hugely important for affordability and students being able to finish quickly and being able to not be discouraged by taking classes. So it was wonderful to get to know them and to be there to celebrate the fantastic work they've done, because we in this room can say things, but they are the people that go and execute those, and it's easier to say things than to do them. So I really appreciate the staff, and looking forward to everything.
Thank you, David. So Dr. Harrison Keller, the Commissioner of Higher Education, updated the 60 by 30 strategic plan a couple of years ago, and it's now called Talent Strong Texas is the name of the strategic plan for the state of Texas. And in that is woven educational attainment goals, workforce development goals, and research and development goals. And the opportunity for us to hear how the breadth of higher education in Texas is seriously taking all those three main points, those three main pillars. So it's no longer feel when we go to these conferences, coordinating board conferences, that here's four-year institutions over here and here's community colleges over here. Yes, there were a couple of sessions that were designated for each one because that's required by the statute that established this leadership conference. But everywhere else, in the plenary sessions, there was this weaving and this understanding of the true pathways of our students, that they may be starting over here, or and then they're going to navigate there, then they're going to come back over here for a little bit, then they're going to get a credential there. They may graduate with a degree, a four-year degree, but they're going to come back to a community college for another workforce credential that they need. This understanding that our students in higher education are no longer just 18 to 22-year-olds, and that the state of Texas is acknowledging, is planning for and is being a thought leader around what to do in this post-secondary pathway and post-secondary opportunities for our students 18 through 22 and on up. Reality is, again, it's 14 or 15-year-old on up in the state of Texas. So the presentations on philanthropy, there was a gentleman from from Trellis Foundation, and he talked about looking beyond 18 to 22-year-olds and how non-credit credentials have to be mapped into what is happening in the credit world as well. To be able to understand that we are serving all students. Dr. Escamilla has talked about that in a number of different ways, that we need to serve and we need to value every one of our students. This gentleman from the Trellis Foundation talked about access to data and looking at it realistically and understanding who all of our students are and not being predisposed to assume that students fit in one category or another because, again, they're constantly crossing paths. So this overarching conversation that's happening at the highest levels of leadership in higher education in Texas is very encouraging for what we're doing at Del Mar College, what we're doing in our South Texas region, and what we're doing across the state. I encourage you, and maybe Mary or someone we can get either the text or a link to the closing comments. Dr. Keller gave about a 15-minute wrap-up to the conference on the morning, the last session right before we broke, and really laid out his priorities for higher education very eloquently. And I think that would be helpful for our regions and leadership, professors, department chairs, deans, everybody to listen to really understand and appreciate the vision for higher education in Texas. So again, thanks for the opportunity to attend. And we'll talk more about opportunities to continue our ongoing learning as Regents as we go through. Any questions for the Regents that were able to attend? Dr. Escamilla, I don't know if you had any overarching thoughts. He and Dr. Halcomb were able to attend, and Dr. Rivera and of course Delia went with us, and so we had a good contingency of folks there.
We did. It was another great conference put on by the Commissioner and Chairman of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, Dr. Farias, our chairman, was there as well. Wonderful gentleman who reached out to me and had a lot of great things to say about Del Mar's positioning there. I'd like to say that the award that was presented at the coordinating board meeting was separate from the one that we're talking about today, so stay tuned. We'll have another award recognition at the February meeting. That is separate and apart, two different items, and I appreciate Regent Loeb. That sounds good, Regent Loeb. Regent Loeb's comments about us being at the forefront, and indeed we are in so many things here at the college. And just quickly, the commission's work was discussed and really solidified in the way of lining up not only the years prior work that it took to put together the report, but the politics that are being dealt with and solidified as we go into the legislative session to make sure that the outcomes of this most important report that will be beneficial ultimately to our students, like never before, is done in a way that has the least amount of doubt and or questions as we move ahead. That's it, Madam Chair, for my comments about the report, about the leadership conference, but I want to thank you, our Regents, our team members for joining us in Austin. Thank you.
Well, now move on to staff reports. We had a student enrollment update last month, but we've got some refreshed figures, and so we're going to invite Ms. Keys and Ms. Patricia Benavides-Dominguez to present that for us.
Thank you very much, Regents and Chairman Scott. Ms. Benavides cannot be with us today, and so I'm going to do it. Thank you. Today, we're going to look at an overview of enrollment trends, really. As we review these trends and the impact the pandemic has had on students, you will see students changing on how they approach the various course offerings. Many are taking short-term continuing education courses in comparison to the traditional credit courses. The college is offering increased number of flexible semesters that include 16, 15, and 8-week terms. The overview shows the flexible semesters and the quarter terms for continuing education, credit courses, and the impact to contact hours. At the board meeting in November, we presented a more in-depth review of enrollment for the whole year. This is intended to be a summary of where we are at the end of the fall semester and as enrollment continues for the spring. As we look forward to the spring of 2023, these terms, it's going to be a big change to say 2023. A great deal of work has been done to engage students as they are transitioning back into the classroom. Registration began on November the 7th and will continue through the middle of January to accommodate the various time frames or terms. Enrollment for spring 2023 is already trending up by 6% for credit courses. The second quarter for continuing education courses began on December 1st, and we are already seeing over 450 enrollments. The impact of offering flexible semesters and 8-week terms is evident in what you're going to see next. The college tracks each individual student or the unduplicated headcount as they enroll in multiple courses. The overall headcount for the combined number of continuing education and credit courses is down by 2.5% for fall of 2022 and compared to fall of 2021. This compares to the upward trend we are seeing at this point in time for spring, which is trending up at 6%. The next slides will show how student enrollment is transitioning to flexible terms and increasing in continuing education course enrollments. Total enrollment is the combination of both continuing education courses and the traditional credit courses. Continuing education courses for the first quarter of the fall semester was up by 4.1%. These courses provide students with more short-term and workforce options such as carpentry, certified nurse assistant, and the commercial truck driving program that is very popular. I think this is very evident, and I appreciate the comments that y'all just made about the coordinating board's leadership conference. Students are also opting to take a variety of terms through what we call flex courses that are offered on an 8-week term. For example, this fall, there was almost a 45% increase in enrollment in the 8-week option. This allows students to take 2 8-week terms along with the more traditional 16-week term. And along with that, I'd like to add we have 15 and 14-week terms. This one. The trend in enrollment for individual students taking the traditional credit courses shows a decrease in enrollment. However, the college has pivoted early, as shown on the previous slides, to meet the changing enrollment patterns. When we combine these 3 enrollment options, an emerging trend illustrates the transition that is taking place. The total enrollment during the fall months or terms has increased by 1.4% over fall of 2021. The individual students or headcounts in each category shows the shift and the increase in continuing education and flexible terms for credit courses. It is important to point out that the flex enrollment is counted in the spring semester by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. However, this is a strong positive indication that the trend overall is taking place in a positive direction. Contact hours represents the number of hours a student takes in class and has decreased over the past fall. However, there is significant increase in the flex term. This corresponds with the enrollment trends on the previous charts. The college is transitioning the way we offer classes and programs to meet the needs of the students. As shown in the increasing enrollment in flex term offerings and continuing education. The various services offered through student services in tuition relief and outreach are addressing the overall enrollment trends that are emerging. And Dr. Escamilla and Regent Scott, the two commissions that you've served on, I believe are going to impact this in a great way.
Yeah.
So just as late as yesterday, at a meeting with our legislative committee with the Texas Association of Community Colleges, we heard that as hard as we're all working towards this year's enrollment, establishing this year's enrollment for the current academic year, that there's even a possibility that they may use last base year's numbers as a go-forth kind of number. And in addition to changing to an outcomes-based funding based on affordability and capacity building and so forth, and all those other wonderful things in this document right here, there is a possibility that this data may come in too late for use. I'm just telling our chairperson, our chairwoman, that right now. It's still speculation. So we have to be ready, as we talked about earlier, that we have to be ready to pivot one way or the other. And it's really a pivot into three different directions. Go back, use last base year's numbers, use the current base year's numbers, forget both of them and move forward with a new established one. So that's where the flexibility and the support is going to be critical as we move forward into the next legislative session. Myself and our regents and select others, staff members, faculty members too, will be asked to participate during this legislative session. It will be historically the most critical legislative session for community colleges in Texas history. And those aren't my words. Those aren't original words. Yes, I just did say them, but they're not original. Madam Chair, as a commissioner, do you have any comments or anything that you'd like to?
No, I think about the difficulty that the state is going to have in figuring out how to do, what to require of us in terms of the data reporting. And because as difficult as it is for us to wrap our heads in numbers and reporting around these flex schedules, more and more colleges are adopting the 8-week and the flex enrollment opportunities, which again is great for our students and what we need to do to help them and to create an environment in which they can be most successful. But when the whole system is built on a 16-week semester, turning that system around quickly and the uncomfortableness and the time that it's going to take to transition all of that data is going to be very, very difficult. So the challenge ahead, it's going to be muddy, and we're going to have to be really clear what our numbers are and going forward, and realizing what the state kind of reports back to us is still going to be potentially in that old paradigm for a while. And so there's just, again, it's going to be muddy for a while.
Thank you very much.
Questions for Ms. Keys on the enrollment update? Other comments?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, our next staff report is a notification and update regarding our HERF funds. David, you know what HERF means yet?
I got you, Mr. Loeb.
Still hazing me.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. President, members of the board. For our new board member, Mr. Loeb, I want to begin with a brief backdrop of the college's Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund Grant, commonly referred to as HERF. So our federal government responded to the COVID-19 pandemic with multiple fiscal policies that included grant funding to assist students and institutions of higher ed during the crisis. The college was awarded multiple HERF grants from March of 2020 to March of 2021 with a combined value nearing $35 million. The college delivered a HERF spending plan update last month at the November board meeting. We are now notifying the board of changes to our HERF spending plan with a value of $2 million that will be used to fund our mission-critical anthology ERP initiative. The source of funding is the HERF grant dollars originally billed as revenue losses. This is unrestricted dollars. These dollars will be tracked in our plant fund. The revised funding is attributed to the rippling effects of the pandemic. The business interruptions experienced by the college that includes seismic, large, huge shifts in the priorities for our Office of Technology. These efforts help augment the college's technology infrastructure while transitioning to a near virtual support for student services and remote instruction. For example, Black Belt Help was purchased. It was introduced during the pandemic for student engagement and communication needs. There's also Ocelot, which is a tool used to answer questions relating to enrollment, financial aid, advising, and other important deadlines for the college. Employee turnover during the pandemic was another disruptor for us. Our Vice President, Chief Information Officer position became vacated during the pandemic, leaving a significant void for the successful implementation of our new college-wide anthology technology system. The college has now turned the corner with our recent hiring of Mr. Ali Koladous as our new Vice President of Information Technology. That includes my report. I'm willing to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? I thought you were going to
Yes,
give
ma'am.
some additional comments. I think it's a great move to figure out how we backfill some of those losses and opportunities that we have in front of us. I think all of us are interested in how we can use the systems to better reach out to those students that have not yet returned or aren't returning with the same level of classes, and this is all a part of that not just enrollment management, but that connection to our students to make sure that they can achieve their goals. So,
Automation is going to be a key strategy as we move ahead. In enrollment management, first step is keeping, it's just like with any business or any enterprise out there, is keeping the students you have, keeping the employees you have, keeping the customers you have. Any umbrella it has the parallels there, but this lost revenue opportunity was a brilliant piece by the feds for the federal government rather to have incorporated into those huge federal dollars that they employed, and they anticipated that the flexibility and the capacity would to accommodate that for things unforeseen were just ideally suited for technology. Again, heretofore we have with HERF dollars we have spent sizable amounts of made sizable investments in technology. I'm proud to say that Mr. Koladous is still what 5 months in now?
5 months, that's right.
Five long months. He squeezed 10 into him, I promise you already. So that he continues to lead that charge in building the ecosystem for automation for our students, because that's what they're experiencing out there. Automation going to the grocery store and going to the library and going to the doctor and going to anything else out there is what is expected. They have been fortified by similar federal dollars out there with their technologies, and therefore we must keep up as well. Mr. Koladous, any comments or anything?
I just want to add on to what Raul was saying, that it was an incredibly big lift to conduct this trend-setting endeavor during COVID pandemic, and we are one of the first colleges in Texas to do so. So I think we're making great headway in doing so, and we look forward to providing that student support that you mentioned, Dr. Escamilla. So it should be a really good thing for the college to implement, and we're looking forward to taking it live very soon. So more to come on that. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Technical-wise, maybe?
I have a
Thank you.
question for Mr. Garcia. So what was the final, or what is the final deadline for expenditure or allocation of all of the HERF funds?
So the final deadline for the grant spending is through the end of May, but I'd like to say, or like to report that we're within 300,000 of the $35 million, and so that will be easily spent in the next 30 to 60 days.
Okay, so we'll have the final wrap-up report at some point this spring?
Yes, I suspect that May would be a good point in time once we have enrollment information to talk about those investments that is impacting our enrollment.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Okay.
Stay up there because you get to do our budget calendar.
Okay. Very nice. Okay. So we kick off the budget planning process with today's discussion on the budget calendar, student affordability assessment, and factors influencing possible tuition rate changes for the 2024 fiscal year. Our presentation includes the most recent reported data points from third-party agencies that will allow us to compare ourselves to other large public community colleges in the state of Texas. Ms. Jackie Landrum will start us off with the 2024 budget plan calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Good afternoon. So the budget calendar for fiscal year 2024 follows the same structure as this year's budget. There are 5 phases to our budget calendar. The first phase is our planning phase, which runs from October through January. So during this phase, there is a tuition and fee assessment completed by Mr. Garcia, and then our budget calendar is developed. In November, a meeting was held with the student government to discuss the tuition and fee update, which Mr. Garcia will discuss later in the presentation. In January, we will meet with our budget committee, and budget training will be conducted. Our budget committee includes chairs, deans, and vice presidents from all areas of the college. The next phase of our budget calendar is the information gathering phase, which is in February. And during this phase, our office is starting to capture and summarize the needs of the financial needs of the college. Assessments are done on information received for technology, equipment, facility maintenance, and recruiting and marketing requests, along with any new or open positions needed for next year. So the next phase of our budget calendar includes the review and recommendation phase, which is from March through July. So during this phase, budget requests are going through multiple approvals with the final approval of the college's executive team to ensure that financial resources are aligned with our strategic goals. Over the last few years, our office has worked very closely with planning and institutional effectiveness to bridge our budgeting processes to the college's strategic plan. Planning and institutional effectiveness lead the college's continuous improvement activities and collaborate with all areas of the college in pursuit of the college's vision. They provide services for strategic planning, student learning and instructional program assessment, administrative and academic student support assessment, institutional research, curriculum management, and institutional and programmatic accreditation. They also lead and support the college's implementation of guided pathways and our quality enhancement plan. So in April, our office works very closely with planning and institutional effectiveness to do a cross-check between the department budget request and the information in the college's student learning and outcomes assessment program called Improve. So Improve is a software where each department goes in and inputs their goals and their targets for each year that support the college's strategic plan. So these are entered each year, and once a year after it's completed, the departments go back and they report their findings to indicate whether they achieved their goals. So during our cross-check with Improve, we analyzed to determine if any of the department goals in Improve support the requested funds of the departments. So this process provides us data for better decision-making. So also during this phase, preliminary revenue assumptions are updated with the best available information. And since fiscal year 2024 is the start of a new biennium, we may not find out what our state funding is going to be till probably June. And then our certified property appraisal information usually is available July 25th. So once this information is received, budget requests may be adjusted based on the updated information. The next phase of our budget calendar includes the budget approval phase, which is in August. And during this time, the estimated property tax, tuition and fees, and state appropriation are finalized and based off the best available information. The final step of our budget calendar is the property tax approval phase, which is also in August. Are there any questions on our budget calendar? Okay, well, Mr. Garcia will continue with student affordability.
Thank you, Ms. Landrum. We will now pivot to student affordability, our assessment. As a backdrop to student affordability, I want to point out two household economic indicators reported by the U.S. Business Census that will identify large community colleges whose district have the most financial need. As a side note, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board has classified the listed colleges on this slide as large public community colleges. It is by state statute that the coordinating board is the highest state authority to govern public Texas community colleges. So let's start with the first data point. The first data point measures the district median household income, which ranges from $46,000 to as high as $88,000, with Del Mar household income at the mid-range of the group at $55,000. Next is the district's poverty levels, ranging from a low of 9% to a high of 21.4%, with Del Mar's poverty levels ranking as the third highest relative to our peer group at 16.7%. Based on these two data points, the districts serviced by Laredo, South Plains, and Del Mar College have the largest financial need. We will now transition to indicators used to measure student affordability on the next slide. Okay. So we begin with the average net price, which is considered one of the best indicators for assessing student affordability. This formula indicator is driven by multiple factors, including financial aid, tuition fees, the cost of books, supplies, and room and board. Based on the most recently reported figures released by the Federal National Center for Educational Statistics, Del Mar College delivers the most affordable education relative to our peer group, with an average net price of $5,617. This is followed by North Central College at $5,778 and Laredo at $5,780. So now let's take a look at two data points of the average net price indicator. First, tuition and fee charges for fiscal year 2023 ranges from a low of $2,670 to a high of $4,460. Del Mar's tuition and fees is near the mid-range of the large community college on this list, with a cost of $3,380. Next is student financial aid, ranging from a low of $4,021 to a high of $8,332. Our students receive, on the average, the third largest financial aid package, valued at $5,911, relative to the other students attending at one of our peer group's community colleges. If there are no questions, we will transition on to the next slide.
Does that financial aid package include debt, or when you say financial aid, is that accumulated grants, scholarships, and debt, or do we?
So that is a good question. I would have to circle back. And it's definitely federal, state, and local funding, but the debt component, I would need to double check on that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Good question. Okay. All right. Talking about student debt. Very good. So the next slide includes a few more. This next slide includes a few more data points on student affordability. Based on the most recent report released by the National Center for Educational Statistics, the average federal loan awarded to a student for fiscal year 2021 ranges from $0 to $6,000. On the average, the Del Mar student acquires the least amount of federal debt valued at $3.9 relative to a student attending 6 of the other large community colleges. I also want to point out on this table, first table, that Laredo Community College does not offer federal loans. According to my counterpart at Laredo College, the reason for their low student debt is because years back, their board approved the opt-out approved opting out of the federal student financial aid loan program because of their high loan portfolio default rates. Colleges get penalized by the federal government for having such poor collection rates. As an alternative to federal loans, their students have access to emergency loan funded through a major donor trust. Okay. Next is a student debt transfer, is the table at the bottom. Based on the most recent report released by the Texas Public Higher Education, the average amount of loan a student walks away after graduation for fiscal year 2019 ranges from $11,000 to $22,700. On the average, the Del Mar student has the least amount of federal debt valued at $13,900 relative to students attending any of the other 7 other large community colleges. Yes, ma'am.
So when you're looking at this, with taking into consideration everything as far as the medium household and so forth, is the reason that we have a lower debt because many of our students qualify for grants?
You know, one can make that easy assumption. I think more research needs to, we need to do more research on our students. But yes, that is one possibility. There's also the possibility that we have a large amount of part-time students, and so they're taking lesser classes, and so there's a certain point where the amount, the level that they may qualify for student debt may not be as much as some of the other institutions. So there's various factors that come into play.
You're exactly right. It's a multitude of factors. Probably a handful or less, but another one being that a lot of these other colleges are residential, and so they incur cost of living expenses such as housing, room, board, and activities expenses and so forth, because they have football teams and athletics and so forth, and they pay for all of those experiences as well.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any data on comparing that to the first 2 years of a state college or a private college in the state? What a student who went here instead of going to UT or Rice would?
Yeah, so the information that I'm pulling for, if we're getting it from the Texas Higher Learning Commission, that information, that data is just purely focused on Texas community colleges. The other information, the U.S. Department of Educational Statistics, I think it was the other one, they have a broad range of data. And so there is a possibility that that information may exist in their database.
I would just say, I think if we can start showing that on what the options are, I think that would be a useful thing to track and tell people about.
Okay, good.
And I had a question.
Yes, sir.
So in light of Laredo's experience, do we know how our students are doing at paying back their debts?
Yes.
That would be something that I need to follow up with our Office of Financial Aid, who may provide some indicators as to how the loan portfolio performance is coming along. So I'd have to defer that question to our Office of Financial Aid. I won't have that today.
Yeah, and our Vice President's not here with that data, but we do have our default rates and so forth, and we do know we do a very good job of controlling for those default rates.
Yeah.
And I think there was as I recall, it's been a while since we've gone over this every year for the past several years, but the reason why Laredo had a particular situation where they can back up their students' loans and do some other things with a corpus of money that came from a sizable local entity, a financial entity. I think, frankly, the reason there's only one that has done that is is that they've lost advantages, frankly, for students who could benefit from some of those dollars. But again, they have their own story. This is not judgment against another college. This is just looking at our own and looking at our own circumstances for our students as well as those of our peers. So it's an outlier that probably can use. I can easily call our friends over there and learn a little bit more on the history of that. But I think that's a one-time deal that you don't go back on, and I would not recommend that.
No, not at all.
For any other institution. Unless they're sitting on $1 billion somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay,
Yeah.
it sounds like they had a unique resource.
Yes.
But in light of the fact that there are consequences to the college, if our default rate,
We can bring that information back. We have default rates on various things. John, do you happen to have that one? I know that's a Joseph question, and neither Joseph or Patricia are here today, and we didn't come prepared with that particular piece of data, but we'll get that back to you as soon as possible.
Sure, the good news is today is just a primer of a second discussion in February, so I can
February.
always come back with additional information.
well, right off the bat, we're seeing risk is obviously reduced by the fact we don't have a lot of federal debt. Our students don't have a lot of federal debt.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Compared to the other schools.
Pell eligibility mitigates that, and
Yeah.
so as such, they're receiving dollars that they, ideally, through their performance and everything else, meeting their end of the deal, so to speak, is really keeps them from having to pay anything back. Big advantage for our students.
Okay.
Student debt is a catch-22, right? We don't want our students walking away with a lot of debt, but at the same token, we want them to get an even amount of debt so that they can get access to education, if that makes sense.
And relative affordability
Yeah.
to costs of other, as compared to regional universities and certainly flagships, we do remain at less than a third the cost. We adhere to those kinds of principles as a community college, as one of our core underpinnings of affordability, and these numbers will be relative. We will have some comparatives in the February meeting. Just as Mr. Garcia said, this is a primer to kick off the discussion so that you all have as you have questions going into these next few weeks, call me. And we'll use those questions to shape and prepare the presentation for February.
Okay, great.
Thank you, duly noted.
Great questions, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. So we will, in short order, take a deeper dive on tuition and fees, but I wanted to take a moment to describe the different funding strategies used by Texas public community colleges. Tuition, property taxes, and state appropriations are the three major sources of funding for public Texas community colleges. Back in 1986, state appropriations was the more pronounced revenue source. Fast forward today, the number of community colleges whose revenue funding continues to be heavily weighted on state appropriations has dwindled down to 10 community colleges. Over the years, there has been a shift to property tax revenues as the more pronounced revenue source. For 20 community colleges, this includes Del Mar College. This slide also includes three other funding strategies used by other community colleges. If there are no questions, I will transition to the next slide. Okay. Good. Yeah, all right. So this slide is an illustration of Del Mar's general tuition and fee structure. The cost of tuition and fees for the fall 2022 term for a part-time and a full-time student is $941 and $1,690 respectively. This is an increase on a term-over-term basis of about 1.8%, which is significantly below the state of Texas recently reported inflation rate of 8.2%. This is attributed to Del Mar's strategy of steady and modest tuition increase in the last couple of years. Here's a few more points about our price structure. The tuition and fee is used to fund all other operating activities of the institution. The general use fee is used to fund the cost of transcripts, graduation, ground improvements, technology centers, campus security, and parking. The building use fee is used to maintain, improve, and equip campus facilities. Next is matriculation fee. It is used to fund the cost of creating and maintaining student records. The instructional support fee is used to fund operations of the writing, math, reading, and other student learning labs. And then there is the student service fee. This is collected, assessed, and collected on behalf by the student government. And it is used to fund student cultural programs, intramural sports, student club activities, the student newspaper, the Viking food pantry, and other related student government initiatives. If there are no questions on this slide, I will transition to the next slide. Okay. All right. So, I want to start off as a backdrop to the information presented on this slide. Our most recent statistical profile reported our part-time student enrollment at 85.1%. In addition, the average student enrollment by semester hour over the past 5 years ranges from 7 to 8 hours. Because of these two data points, the information presented on this slide is from the lens view of a part-time student registered for 8 credit hours in the fall and 8 credit hours in the spring. So, this 13-year history view has helped shape our current strategy of steady and modest tuition and fee increases as a means of achieving student affordability and as a way to minimize the sticker price shock. As previously mentioned, the district's median household income is about $55,000, and the district's poverty rate is an elevated 16.7%. With that said, our students experienced a financial hardship in the 2010 and 2011 years with a combined increase in the cost of attendance of $308 or 24.2%. I will also add that our students did not experience periods of I will also add that our students experienced no increases in the tuition in the years 2015, 2016, and 2021. This last point only adds to the risk of possible, and I emphasize possible, draconian increases in the near future as what we experienced in the 2010 and 2011 year. So now let's take a long-term view. The last column on this slide includes the percentage increase over our 13-year history. From the lens view of our student or parent, I think we can describe these increases as volatile, unpredictable, and at times financially unsustainable for the parent or student. I will also add that the average increases during the entire 13-year history averages at 3.6%. So from the lens view of the student, it would appear that an annual increase over that 13-year, year over year, of 3.6%, we would have ended up in the same place, but it would be more financially manageable than an increase experienced in the 2010, 2011, 2013, and 2017 years. This last point suggests that a steady and modest tuition increase on the long-term run of the curve, paired with consideration to incremental student services and instructional costs and long-term yield inflation rates, would make educational attainment more financially feasible. If there are no questions, I will transition to the final slide on the next page. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, perfect. So let's talk about what a steady and modest tuition increase could look like for the fiscal year 2024. This slide includes tuition rate changes scenarios ranging from $1 to $5 on a per semester hour. A $5 increase will result in an annual increase in the cost of tuition of $80 or 4.3%. This increase is for a part-time student enrolled in 8 credit hours for the fall term and 8 credit hours for the spring term. Next is the tuition increase from the lens view of the college. The college will generate $135,000 in tuition revenue for every $1 increase in the tuition rate. An increase in the tuition rate will allow the college to maintain or elevate instructional and support services for our student and instruction. This slide includes a few examples on the bottom. I will also add there is an increased cost pressures with delivering the same level of services in a period of elevated inflation. So a tuition rate charge of $5 or a 4.3% increase appears, and I emphasize appears, to be reasonable relative to the most recently reported inflation rate for the state of Texas of 8.2%. With that said, there's much to think about from now until the February board meeting, when the college will provide a recommendation on the tuition rate for the 2022, 23, and 2024 year, if any. If there are no questions, this concludes my presentation.
Now, wouldn't a $5 increase actually exceed our 13-year average?
Yes, sir.
Are there specific pressures that suggest we should do that to our students this year or next year?
I want to emphasize, Mr. Kelly, I'm not advocating for $5. It's just an observation. I will say that the 4.3, to your point, yes, on the average, it's on the high end relative to the 13-year history. But I will also point out that in this period of inflation, we're at 8.3%, which is nearly half of what the population is experiencing today in inflation, inflated goods and services that they're experiencing today.
But at the same
just parallel. I'm just for comparison.
At the same time, we're servicing one of the highest poverty level populations in the state. Right?
Valid point. Yes, sir.
I have a couple of questions on the bullet points at the bottom of that slide, the factors influencing tuition rate change. You mentioned the opening of the city's police training academy, but that really isn't going to impact other students. So I was curious as to why you included that one, services in Aransas County, and then I have a question about equipment. But those two shouldn't affect our students overall because those are specialized population groups that should be paying their own way and or not impacting us at all.
I think they're still at the final stages of programming that. I'm not too sure if there would be any ancillary cost associated with having that program near our campus. So those are things that I'm only thinking about.
Gotcha.
But I'm not saying they're factual. It's just things that we need to think about and talk about what makes sense and what could impact our bottom line.
Regarding the Workforce Development Center in Aransas County, right now we're pending construction to complete the remodeling that needs to take place due to the Hurricane Harvey damage that happened to the building. The county presently owns the building. There is approximately $800,000 worth of funding from the EDA that is available to remodel. We're getting a bid right now. The county's getting the bid. And so this is the county's project as far as the facility. We will have a long-term lease for the programming. There could be some upstart cost, computers. We'll need some computers. We'll need some technology. We already have all the furniture. We're going to take the furniture out of the library. We've already managed to keep all of that in storage. So there will be some upstart cost, but the students in Aransas County will be paying their own way, and it will be at the out-of-district rate.
Right.
One of the points, Regent Kelly, that I'd like to tie into your comments is that as we adhere to affordability, and affordability is always relative, right? And we remain most affordable, all things considered. As we compare ourselves to our peers, then we begin to, quote, compete a little bit more. In other words, be a little bit more expensive relative to our peers around the state. All that being said, it's going to be a tricky proposition and tricky strategy to move ahead in February one way or the other when we need to set the tuition rates, the student charges rates, not just tuition, student charge rates for both credit and continuing education a few weeks later. Because we start enrolling for new Regents, we start enrolling our students in April for fall. And so those numbers have to be set and so forth. All that being said, we are going to also, we're going to do two things. We're going to watch our peers, not just our similarly sized peers around the state, but all the other 49 colleges around the state. Our CFOs talk regularly. They have a listserv, if they communicate regularly, I should say, to watch what each other is doing. There's usually some pretty solid trends out there and some pretty good solid opinions, but then again, they become localized, and then that's where the variation is. So we'll watch our peers, and then we'll also see how early the commission work develops in the legislative process. Okay, I'm tying this, I keep coming back. I keep bringing this back to that work at the state, but it's relative because it could change the whole game, the whole structure for our student charges as we move ahead in coming years. If we do better as a result of the modeling that is going to be put in place at the next legislative session, and we find that out early, we may want to go in this modestly, and maybe I'm going to dare say it, maybe a two-bite at the apple kind of process. So there's going to be lots of things to be. We can't just go into this February to set student charges like we have historically with, okay, here it is, like it or not, whatever, more modest than not, whatever it is. We're going to have to go into that very, I don't want to say cautiously, but optimistically cautious, and with the idea that we could change it down the road. My peers and I are talking about how to set student charges for the future. It's not going to be easy.
I'm mindful of the balancing act that you're charged with.
Yes, sir.
And I'm mindful of the fact that we want the college to continue to be viable and provide high-quality product for our students. But at the same time, we do service a population who would be very sensitive to any increases. We've noticed from the report earlier today that our numbers this past fall semester are down relative to past years. I don't know whether that's in part a result of our past tuition increases. I don't know whether we've got a correlation, or we know the correlation between our tuition rates and our enrollment rates. I understand it's a balancing act, but I think that the students need an advocate too.
And that is our affordability underpinning, absolutely. And that is what this board is for, to maintain that vision, and absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. We must all be advocates, continuous advocates for our students. The point that I forgot to make, or did not make last time that I just remembered, is that this modeling will be built for affordability with students of need at the heart of that underpinning of affordability. So we're going to see where the monies are going to be coming from. So what I'm trying to say is, and if it doesn't work this cycle, perhaps next academic year, when we fully or better understand, because I don't think this plan will be fully developed for a few years, but that we may be able to, there may be better timing for implications next February of '24 for this. So we're talking about all these things. We're all making notes. My team is making notes of all of these kinds of things right now. So that's why I'm talking about them and the like. So it may be something that we push further down the road. But absolutely, we must remain as advocates for our students.
And I understand we don't operate in a vacuum, but I anticipate being more receptive to arguments supporting tuition increases because of the cost of providing the product we all want to provide, as opposed to our peers are charging more.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. I know inflation's been falling since June. So I think in February, we'll know whether that is, continuing or not. But I'd say, the important thing for me is what kind of cost of living increases are we going to be needing to give our staff and our plant employees in order to make sure that we are maintaining the quality of education or improving it. And so, I don't necessarily care so much about what somebody in North Texas is charging, but I want to make sure that we don't create a mismatch where we're getting behind on what we need to charge in order to do what we currently do.
Duly noted.
Yes, Mr. Garza.
Yeah, I'm along the same lines as Regent Kelly. And again, I do feel, contrary to your comment about not advocating for either, I do feel that presentations have been kind of advocating for steady tuition increases. And I know that maybe the students that get financial help, which is about 77% of our student population, they get Pell Grants or they get some sort of grants, they're not affected because they get reimbursed or they get paid upfront by the federal government. But for that 22 or 23% of our student population that are paying either out of pocket, in a lot of cases aren't getting loans because they come from a very conservative, super conservative family group, I think that doesn't represent the affluent of our society, because the most affluent go to four-year universities by and large. Those students are local students that can't afford to go to somewhere out of town or somewhere out of state. And so I do think that there is some impact on our enrollment rates by an increase in tuition rates that might be hard for the student to sustain. Secondly, I also think that we need to take into account, I know that we saw some lower enrollment numbers, but here in just the last report, we saw that there might be a trend upwards. And I think the 6% is a higher percent enrollment rate than we actually had in our budgeted number, right? So if we're getting increased, and I'm saying, I don't know what's going to happen, by February we'll know what the enrollment rate is, right? But by that time, if we roll in the increased enrollment rate and the increased revenue from that increased rate over what we budgeted, then we can determine, or we can decide whether our students should absorb a tuition increase. And so I think that we always have to be mindful of that population is actually paying, student population is paying out of pocket. And then our tuition, in my opinion, our tuition increase should be a very, very last resort, not the first resort. And so that's my own choice, is that needs to be our last resort. Okay, thank you.
All good points, a lot to think about from now until February. Next step is come back with at the February board meeting with a recommendation. I guarantee that prior to that meeting, we will also have discussions with our student government, where we will gauge any recommendation with them, and I can relay those responses based on what we're recommending to the organization. Okay?
Mr. Garcia, one last comment on the bullet points that you have listed. So the inflationary pressures and the balancing that we have talked about, and we're going to make the best decision we can in February with the information that's available at that point in time.
Yes.
Because nobody's crystal ball is polished, I think, to perfection. But the 3 points that I would want to have a more robust discussion on or understanding that I don't think are inflationary are, again, the police academy impact, the services in Aransas County impact, and your bullet point on deferred maintenance plan. I don't know what that means, but if there's some deferred maintenance out there that we need to understand, then we probably need a more robust discussion about that and not just put that out as something that you're thinking about. So I don't know what that means, and it may just be something, again, that you're thinking about, but if there's deferred maintenance out there that we need to understand, then we need to understand it.
Duly noted.
Yeah.
We need more clarity in these bullets and so forth, so
Yeah.
that they're not as speculative and off the tops of anybody's heads, but.
Right.
And there is a lot of deferred maintenance and that has to be addressed, and so, all of these topics, all of these bullets have to be better understood, so duly noted.
I think our president nailed it. These bullet points were very speculative. This is early in the budget planning stage. I won't know until March when people are coming in with their requests what the true needs are. So I do apologize for that. But this is just me thinking what to anticipate. Speculative, purely speculative. Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Busby, sorry to make you sit through all of this. Apologize for that, but now we get our annual foundation update. And did Michelle have to leave? No, she's still there. There we go. Want to welcome Michelle Unda, who is the chairman of the Del Mar College Foundation Board. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate it very much.
So I did take note. Is this on? Yes. It's already on? Okay. Dr. Escamilla said we have no more than 45 minutes this afternoon, so I will make sure.
It's 4 to 5 minutes.
Oh, I am so sorry. Deli, can you cut half of that? Okay, no, we will keep it brief. Thank you for the opportunity to represent the staff and the volunteer foundation board of directors. This is the annual update for the new Regents. Just a quick blurb. The Del Mar College Foundation is a separate 501c3 nonprofit governed by an independent and volunteer board of trustees, Michelle being the president of that board. We have an MOU with the college where we are perfectly synchronized. I'm one of the staff members as part of the Division of Development and Foundation Services. So we'll just go ahead and share the two primary components of what the Del Mar College Foundation does. The first, and I like to simplify it, it's in and it's out, right? So the development side is the bring resources in. And the few bullet points are donor relations and stewardship, major and planned giving, regular giving campaigns, special events like you all have gone to and supported, as well as corporate and foundation grants with Del Mar College as the fiscal agent. The other side of grants falls under Raul's office, which is federal and state grants, distinctly different both in terms of applying for and compliance and that sort of element. So we've split the grants into two different areas, with the foundation being one. The second area of our division is foundation services. This is the output. This is the scholarship application and awarding management, the financial reporting, investment management, and donor database management. Those bullet points sound so simple and yet involve so much, so many elements of things. So the Del Mar College Foundation snapshot, I'm going to present a couple 10-year time snapshots for you. But the first is in terms of fundraising. Our most recently concluded fiscal year, we achieved $3.18 million in contributions and grants. What that means is it is all individually given, both by corporations, by local businesses, private foundations, as well as individuals like yourself. No federal and state funds are commingled in that number. Our prior 5-year average is $3.13 million, and so consistently the foundation has achieved excellence in either meeting or exceeding the 5-year average, slowly raising the bar as we continue to help students. Our net assets for fiscal year 2022 are $28.89 million, with October being $27.52. A brief side note, and you all have watched the market. I can't tell you anything more than you already know. The volatility, the unpredictableness, from month to month, from week to week, sometimes from day to day. We've seen our net assets rise to a record high at $32.3 million. They've dropped down in a month, and today, or end of November, they were back up at over 30 million. But that's the snapshot for you there. The most important part, and the reason why we exist, is to help Del Mar College students, faculty, and staff. That is the summary of why we are here, both our division and the foundation. The primary way that we do that is through scholarships to Del Mar College students and prospective students. The recently concluded year, I wish it could have been 2, maybe I could round it up, Raul, but $1.99 million for academic year 2021-2022, with 1,662 students served. That's a unique head count. So a 10-year net asset snapshot. 10 years ago, we were at nearly $5 million in net assets, and most recently concluded June 2022, we were at 28.9 to round it up just slightly. That's an impressive growth, thanks in large part to Mary McQueen, Joel Solis, and the rest of the Del Mar College Foundation staff, and also particularly to our volunteer board of directors. Our 10-year fundraising snapshot has some variances, but by and large, we've seen a steady increase and a maintenance of that increase in terms of what we're doing year in and year out in terms of fundraising, with the most recently concluded year being $3.18 million. Lastly, as the 10-year scholarship awarding from 2012 to 2022, you're going to see a steady increase, and we've just almost achieved a record high at almost $2 million, like I mentioned before, which is all thanks to the Del Mar College community, the faculty, the staff, the administration, the board, and to our local Corpus Christi philanthropists, from industry to corporations and to individuals. So just a brief note on how we operate and how we fundraise. Most everyone has bought popcorn, t-shirts, you name it, gone to events. All those are a component of fundraising. Del Mar College, thanks to the leadership of the foundation board, the regents, and the administration, has changed how we focused over a period of years to become hyper-focused on how can we help the most students, the most faculty, and the most staff. How can we achieve our vision and our mission in the most meaningful, significant way, efficiently? The way that we do that is we have increased our focus on one-on-one to relationships in an authentic, genuine, and sustainable way by building relationships with individuals, sharing the Del Mar College story, and focusing on two aspects of giving, meaningful and significant. And what that means to each company, each foundation, and each individual will vary. A major gift focus, not unlike other university fundraising shops or even other nonprofits. Staff members hold a portfolio of relationships that we manage. We track those based upon engagement goals, not just fundraising dollars. We're building relationships to last permanently for meaningful and significant giving. We focus on three things in our operations, which is efficiency, effectiveness, and experience. Boiled down, once again, I go down to our entire office strives to help as many students as possible in the most effective way. That leads us to sort of a pivot point, pre-COVID, but COVID certainly helped it, and I'm not going to belabor this, just one slide on how do we do events. When most folks think, they say, how can I sponsor an event? How can I come to one of your events? We've had some amazing events. We've had fishing tournaments, crawfish boils. We have repelled Dr. Marcus Camilla, Carol Scott, Regent Carol Scott have rappelled over the side of a tall building downtown. We have done some amazing, fun, and exciting, meaningful things. Pre-COVID, we began to pivot by taking a business approach by analyzing, thanks to the support of our foundation board, those events, looking at four sets of numbers. The gross amount, the amount that every nonprofit advertises. Every dollar we brought in kind and cash, here is the gross amount. $200,000. The net cost, which is how much subtracting the food, the whatever you may have it, that's the net cost. We often report that. We went a step beyond and said, how much do you pay every foundation staff member? How many hours did we spend? If I spent 200 hours and I got paid this amount of money, this is in effect how much the college spent on this event. We didn't count Michelle's time, and the rest of our foundation board. But we began to calculate and said, this is the true cost to how much the board and the college invest in us, and can we do something better to help more students? The short answer is yes. The foundation board resoundingly said, this is what we want to empower you to do, and we made that pivot pre and during COVID. So pivoting over to the story of what we share, totally shamelessly stole this idea from our colleagues at Amarillo College. Dr. Escamilla, Regent Scott, most of you guys have probably seen this. Their student is Maria. Our student is named Sophia. We profiled the typical Del Mar College student using our data points. And what you previously heard we have encapsulated in a single infographic to convey the story of why we exist and the philanthropy of donors, why they should consider Del Mar College in their plans. I'm not going to go over every single line item there. It's in your slide deck. But when we share the story of who Del Mar College serves, whether it's credit or continuing education, this is the story that resonates with the people, the industries, and the foundations that support Del Mar College. Once again, we partnered with our colleagues in institutional assessment and effectiveness, and the name goes long and on, Shushil, Christina, and several others, and they helped us analyze. We share the story that scholarships make a difference, and that feels great. We took it one step beyond and said, show us the data. Does the data also make a difference? Does the private investment in a student's life here at Del Mar College and their academic journey towards achieving a better career? And the short answer is absolutely. Double-digit percentage increase in course completion and program completion, which is the fancy way for did they graduate, right? Whether it's CE or whether it's credit. We looked at two numbers. They got financial aid and they got a scholarship. They still did better. We looked at students and said they didn't get any federal financial aid and they did resoundingly better. A lady sat in our office and she shared, I think, what encapsulates why they did better. With tears in her eyes, this lady who's in her mid-50s said, I raised my $3, right? And I held off on my dream. I was a midwife, but I always wanted to be a nurse, and I couldn't afford it. She's a low-income lady who's a single mom who raised her kids, but her kids are gone. Now they're in college. It's her turn. She does not have the money to go to Del Mar College, even with financial aid. So a donor steps in and gives her money. She wants to achieve not just passing grades, she wants to get an A, because she said, someone I've never met gave me their hard-earned money, and I can't let them down. And so she said, I'm going to get an A, and I'm going to graduate as a nurse to achieve my dream, but also to make that person who I've never met, make that investment real. And that's the numbers you see right here. One of the last few slides are stewardship. It's sort of a churchy word, but we really focus on the donor experience, our office as a whole, in an authentic, meaningful way. Every one of us and in every role of our office is genuine about building relationships to last between Del Mar College and the supporters in our community. We do that in 3 different ways. The first is an annual scholarship reception for donors and students. This is free. It's one of the most meaningful, awesome things that you could come to. So I hope that you will consider joining us next fall. The second is by custom donor experiences and program tours. We have not gotten rid of special events. We've actually doubled or tripled the amount of special events, except they're even more special, right? So we take a donor and says, I care about welding or process technology, but I just don't care about fine arts. Or we take the people who love music and they don't care about welding, all right? And we say, what is meaningful to you? And what would a significant gift look like for you? And we pair them up with a meaningful experience in quarter of the time and see better results for everybody. We share stories, we report results, and we express sincere gratitude multiple times. It's just the way we do business here at Del Mar College. You might have seen this. This was last year's scholarship report. We mail this out every single spring. It's just pretty much the accounting report. Here's the fund balance. Here's the names and the biographies of the students who received your scholarship support. It's a way for us to report back, which is absolutely important. Second to last slide, Dr. Escamilla has given me the eye over here. I'm picking on you, right? So we really strive for innovation. Once again, go into effectiveness and efficiency.
Matthew, hold on. My son went duck hunting at 2:45 this morning and woke me up, okay?
Ooh.
That's the look that you see in my eye. I'm not rushing you, okay? Okay? So please, I'm not rushing you.
Bring a little humor to the long meeting night. So online giving, this is an old thing, right? Online giving. We've been purchasing stuff online forever. But once again, we take a look at everything we're doing well, and we strive to do it even better. All right? And so one of those things is, how can we make people's desire to give as streamlined and as easy, quite frankly, as possible? And so we implemented, just actually a few years ago, a new online giving platform, state of the art. I would challenge you, give to Harvard, give to Yale, Baylor, give to your alma mater. We are better than nearly all of them. Our staff tried that. That's our goal, right? So the most recent fiscal year, we hit a record of just over $75,000 for 346 transactions. We've increased the way people can give, whether it's Venmo, PayPal, you name it. I'm not going to read the list. And it enhances overall the 3 E's. It sounds like a sermon here: of experience, efficiency, and effectiveness for our donors. And what we've seen is that our donors keep giving year in and year out. They give regularly, and overall the end result is a meaningful experience for them, a shared encouragement of others in our community to join in giving to Del Mar, and most importantly, supporting our Del Mar College students. The last thing I wanted to end on is an impact point. We heard about HER funding and student emergency aid. The federal government stepped in a great way to provide that. I'd like to brag about Michelle and Mary and our foundation donors. Pre-pandemic, pre-whatever HERF is acronym for, a foundation donor said, "We recognize your students are oftentimes low income. They're first in their family, and emergencies are a regular habit for them. Things come up, and that can derail them from finishing their class or their program. Our data shows that if they step out of their degree plan, they don't come back. They don't finish. When we lose them, we've lost them. So what can the foundation do not only to enhance the effectiveness of that investment of a scholarship, but also just to help them navigate tricky circumstances in a very, very nimble way?" Which scholarships is not as nimble, right? Student emergency aid, not alone, but just a one-time need that addresses urgent, unforeseen, and non-recurring needs. Our donors created that, and they consistently have stepped up to the game in meaningful and significant ways. Fiscal year 2022, we helped over 283 students. This is not federal money, this is not state funding, and awarded over $153,000. We are on track to exceed that because that's a continued focus of philanthropists in our community.
I'm curious, is the student population made aware of this resource?
So once again, we've tried to take it a notch up at the foundation. We've implemented, thanks to really Michelle and the board, realizing that, I don't know if you text, it's this thing called where you take your phone and you type in there, right? Everybody texts. Everybody. They don't do emails anymore, and they certainly don't answer a phone. So thanks to the board's support, we purchased a third-party texting platform, 2 ways. I'm not just going to throw something at you, I want to hear back from you. We've mainly used it with students, to where we say, "Hey, student ABC," right? We try to use their name. "Hey, Matthew, this is John from Del Mar College Foundation. Just wanted to let you know. There's scholarships, here's the info. There's emergency aid, here's the information." We also strategically communicate with faculty and staff. Our faculty are the heroes. They're the ones who students go to first, whether it's the carpentry program or the theater program. We really aim to let every one of our faculty and staff members know that the foundation is here to help them and support their students, and that we have this emergency aid program. So, long answer for a short question.
Good answer.
Any questions? Otherwise, thank you so much.
Michelle, would you please pass on to your fellow trustees our thanks for the volunteer work that they do? It's a great group of leaders at your foundation board, and just we want you to pass on our thanks for everything that they're doing.
I will. Each and every one of our trustees cares very much about our students and is completely committed to our foundation staff and our mission. I think they would echo your sentiments in allowing us to serve our students. Many of us were students, and so that it all hits home. Having Dr. Escamilla at the helm as a former student as well, all of it really just, it goes back to helping us drive home the mission when we are talking to the donors. We're not just, giving them some sob story. We're walking and talking the story ourselves, and showing them on a daily basis what will happen if they can support our students in any way possible. So thank you for letting us join you today.
Thank you for being here. Comments, questions from the board? Great job. Thank you. That's right. Round of applause. Tammy McDonald is going to give us our professional service contract review.
Thank you, Chair. This is our semi-annual review of our professional service contracts. The last time we reviewed this was in June, so this will be an update from what activity has happened from June until now. We continue with our color-coded system. So the yellow is, or it's kind of an orange yellow, is expiring. Blue means there might have been some type of adjustment. Orange is it's expired. Green is new. So I'm just going to go through the changes that are in the color code. There is no change, and we won't talk about it. So from the 2014 bond, the AGCM contract was to expire in August. There was an extension to actually the end of this month of 12/31. So that had, it's expiring still in this year, but there was a little bit of a change. So we left it on the list. In blue, we have a date change from the contract, which is doing business as Victory. It's for the police station renovations, excuse me. That project completion has been moved to March. So that was a date change. And then we have a new contract for Texas Chillers. So that is highlighted in green. And it was approved by the board in April. And then we have several contracts that have expired since June or will be expiring by the end of December. So that is the Gensler Turner Ramirez contract for the south side. It is pending because it depends on the project completion, so that could possibly show up on next year's list. But for now, it is set to expire. The Fulton contract for Package 1. Package 1 was the initial package, which was the infrastructure central plant, so that has completed, so that is expiring. Then we have the command commissioning for OSO, that is expiring, or has expired. And then we have Marshall Company, which was the pedestrian bridge here on this campus. So that has also expired. Right, let's see, substantial completion issued in March. But just to make a note, we do have a warranty that extends into next summer. So it is completed, contract will expire, but we do have a warranty till next summer. Okay. And then we have a date change, or we're looking at, you awarded a contract for custodial services, and it was awarded to the current company. And so that's why it's in blue, not red. Excuse me, blue, not green. I guess I'm thinking Christmas colors. Because it's the same company, it's just we are changing the dates on that contract, and the contract is under completion right now. So it's ready to be moved forward. So any questions on our professional contracts list? Like I said, this will come back to the board in June.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, our college president's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief and as quickly as possible. I'd like to begin by bringing to the board an update on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Development Committee. I'd like for you to know that there's been 2 meetings held so far in November. I guess there was an initial development meeting in the summer, but the more substantive meetings have come November 11th and December 2nd. The first meeting really was about a little bit about the background of the need for the DEI committee and initiatives here at the college. So looking at the background of Del Mar College history and the like, setting committee goals, timelining, committee membership expectations, and so forth. There was homework assignments issued there. I think our general counsel was quick to do that, and that really covered the first meeting, and the second meeting really was a facilitated professional development opportunity by Dr. Raquel Boteo. I think she's from Iowa, if I'm not mistaken. When I asked, and I went and met and kicked off the group. The group's workshop really was a really in-depth meeting with Dr. Boteo on what DEI means, and truly taking a deep dive into reflecting on their roles here at the college and the purposes of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the like. There are set meetings to come in the spring. They're moving forth, and I am working with both Cheryl Sanders and our general counsel Agustin Rivera to set some outcomes and deliverables by early summer to bring back to the board and really to begin consuming or activating the the committee's true purpose, and that is advancing the DEI efforts here at the college. The second item, are there any questions about that? It's just an update. There's more to come. We'll be bringing it back to you. The second one is there's a season celebration right here in this room this Friday, December 16th at 11 a.m. Miss Delia and I will be making tamales all week long for this. That's not true. That's not true. I'm getting coal for Christmas. That is not true. We are going to buy them. Anyway, right here in the Dress Grace Community Room at the Oso Creek campus. So please come. It's going to be it's a college-wide experience, and for the new Regents, we're going to celebrate all seasons and all the employees with all their various backgrounds and say thank you. And if you're counting calories, well, good luck with that, because it's going to be a rich celebration in every sense of the word. So we look forward to that. And then finally, I wish she wouldn't have left. I wish I'd have known she was leaving. I know our commencement speaker for this Friday also to be held at the American Bank Center at 7 p.m. is Michelle Unda. She's the only two-time world champ, right? No, but the two-time commencement speaker to come and come back. But she's coming back as a couple of lots of different reasons, but particularly as the chair of our foundation. You heard her speak. You heard her. She is all heart, and she's an amazing asset to this community, and we can't wait to hear her inspiring words to our students. Again, the ceremony will be broadcast on the college's social media channels, so stay tuned. We're looking forward to getting back. And again, for those who haven't been, it'll be a lot of fun. Again, the American Bank Center, the Fall 2022 commencement ceremony, it's 7 p.m. I promise to be earlier than I've been in the past. Leave it at that. My wife is going to make me. Anyway, that completes my remarks. If there are any questions, I'm glad to answer.
Questions?
I actually have a question, Chairwoman, for you, and that is, we've talked a lot about the board's role with the DE&I work, and what do you foresee as our next steps from a board perspective in terms of our own training and what we may want to do as a board?
I am thinking that with new board members, it's time for us to do our board self-evaluation this spring as well. And so I think if we could couple that with potentially partially some training, some board retreat, or look at how we lay that out, there certainly are opportunities the day of our board meetings to do some training here. When we had the goal around financial acumen, financial reporting acumen for the board, we identified those topics at state and national conferences for us to attend. So I think we need to get a little bit more structured in what we think is helpful for us. And we did have the conversation about the committee making some recommendations. Is there training that we should do in addition to what the staff is doing, and how might those overlap? So I think there is a conversation. I don't have an answer for you today, but we have been thinking about that, and I know you and I have had some conversations about that, about how to move that forward for us. So I don't have an answer today, but yeah.
Madam Chair, I think I have a partial answer
Okay.
for you also. I have two experts or two individuals out there who may be able to facilitate some work with the board that I'm working to. One, I haven't gotten a hold of either one, but I do have the people. I am very close to the people who have their numbers and so forth. So I'm working on those so that you can compare and contrast, maybe by meeting them and decide whichever your preference is. So I at least have that.
I was encouraged too to hear equity discussed several times last week at the coordinating board meeting, and just want to make sure that you, Dr. Escamilla, understand that it's not like we expect you and the college to go do this work on your own without us also doing some introspection and doing some board work, because we certainly committed to that the last time that we talked about that. So
Yep.
I'm glad to see that moving forward into next year.
Other questions or comments for Dr. Escamilla? Thank you. Our pending business list is in front of us, so this is in addition to we have an annual planning calendar, David, that guides staff on things that are statutory and that are regular work. But this pending list is things that the board has asked for or decisions we've made about regular things that aren't necessarily part of our automatic calendar. So for example, the HERF update is here in May. When HERF is concluded, we won't have future HERF updates. But these are things that the board has asked about or on the board's planning calendar. So without a January meeting, our February meeting will be probably a pretty hefty one because we've got several reports to receive, including our investment report, looking at the coordinating board strategic plan. We'll work on that to figure out if there's something different that we need to do related to the coordinating board strategic plan. Lenore, I'm looking at you to help me remind Dr. Escamilla. Let's look at that one. But we'll have an internal audit report, and you can see the other things that are there. We do need to have the conversation. Executive committee will work on our board self-evaluation, on how we're going to start that process, and be able to come back to you, I think, in February with that. The other thing that's not on this list, because it's on our board planning calendar list, is the resumption of, or renewal of our board committees. We have one committee by our bylaws, which is the audit committee. The others are as needed. So if in the conversation, and the board can form a committee at any time. So we will be looking for a board audit committee. I'll be appointing that. And then we'll look and see, maybe through our self-evaluation and our board planning retreat, are there additional committees that the board could want? And again, we can do that at any time. So, any questions about, yes?
Are we going to start earlier in February because the second Tuesday is Valentine's Day?
Well.
And if it's going to be a hefty meeting, we might not want everybody else in the room to kill us, or their spouses too.
We could start early so that we're done earlier. Is that your conversation? Yeah.
Right.
So if there are workshop topics, we could certainly start earlier in the day. Block out the entire day, and we can usually start somewhere between, maybe no earlier than 9, and maybe as late as 10:30, and I think that's a good plan. But we'll make every effort to get everybody out in time for their reservations.
Trying to score points with the staff this meeting.
There we go.
In case you were...
There we go. Or your spouse or somebody. All right, any other questions on the pending item list? Our consent agenda today, we'll move into consent agenda items that consist of board minutes to be approved, as well as acceptance of investments and financials. As indicated, those have been provided to the board prior to the meeting. Is there anything that needs to be removed for separate consideration? If not, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented? Thank you, Dr. Adami. Second by Mr. Garza. Any public comment on that? All those in favor of adopting this consent agenda as presented, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Thank you. Our regular agenda item, we will only have one regular agenda item. We're actually pulling item number 5. That's not ready to come before the board at today's meeting. And so we are happy to invite or to welcome our representative from Collier, Johnson & Woods. Thank you for being here. Actually, Mr. Garcia, I guess you're going to introduce. Yep.
Sure. She's very anxious, I know.
Sorry. She's been waiting patiently.
So there's a lot of heavy lifting that's done to get the audit job done. So I want to first thank Mr. John Johnson, Dr. West, and Jackie Landrum and David Davila for their hard work and efforts to get us through another year of a successful audit. So now we have Miss Bridget Cook from Collier, Johnson & Woods, who will now report on the college's fiscal year 2020 audit report.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Cook.
Thank you. Okay. So let's see how I do with this. The electronics. I'm so happy to be here to present your annual financial statements. And it's I'm starting out with basically an overview of what's in the financial statements. So we have on one side the basic financial statements, which is basically your balance sheet, what we call it statement of net positions for governments, and your statement of revenue, expenses, and changes, and the notes for financial statements. And then there's also the required supplemental information, which is management's discussion and analysis and some other required schedules. I am so happy to hear that you've read the entire CAFR, because usually late at night, but this year Adam Miller, who is the audit manager, filled out the GFOA checklist, which is 48 pages long, and I always feel like, other than us, the only person who's going to read the entire 153 pages and go through that detailed checklist is the GFOA reviewer. So I'm very happy that you read that. And I hope, and with Mr. Bennett gone, I'm hoping that you'll ask a few questions. Okay, so first of all, the most important thing is that you have an unmodified or clean opinion on the basic financial statements. And also included in the auditor's report, we're expressing an opinion on Schedules A through D, which is the reports that are the detailed revenue and expenses, and it's required in the format that the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board approves. And we also express an opinion on that, as well as the schedule for expenditures with federal awards at the very back of the financial statement. So those three things we're expressing an opinion on. Also, the required supplemental information, the MD&A, which is a narrative form of the financial statements. So if you don't read the entire report, that's the report you should read, because that's something that really does tell you a condensed version of the financial statements and the results thereon. It's prepared by management, and we do limited procedures on that, making sure that everything ties out, as well as the other RSI, which is related to pensions and OPEBs, other post-employment benefits. That's what OPEB stands for. So if you really want to know what that means, health insurance. So you're required to produce a report just like the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board requires. They give you a format, and all that information is done by that, as well as government GASB, which generally has for colleges that you're doing in a business type format, which is really is very appropriate for your circumstances. This year, there was one new accounting pronouncement that was effective regarding leases, and we did implement that this year. It was a little bit of an effort, but not particularly interesting, so I'm not going to go into that for you at this point in time, unless you have questions. So, I just want to give a brief overview of the financial statements themselves. So on page 39 is, quote, the balance sheet, statement of net positions. And I had to kind of look at this and said, what's going on here? Okay, it's a point-in-time financial statement, and that's important this year. So you're as of August 31st, 2022. And the reason it's interesting this year is, you see, we actually had a decrease of $6.5 million. And where is that decrease? Well, it's in your cash and investments, which are down by 53.8. Wow, that's a lot. And it's offset by the up of your capital assets, which are up by 49.7%. So 40 million. So what's that difference between those two? Guess what? It's investments. So we're marking our investments for the financial statements as of August 31st, 2022. And we have a $5 million write-down that's recognizing an unrealized gain. So this is, and Matthew kind of covered this on the foundation, this is one of the things where it's marked down there. And I don't know about you, but I looked at my portfolio, shall I say my 401k, I think the end of September, and I was a lot poorer than I was even in October. So it's always a little scary. But then there's another complexity on your balance sheet. So our assets are down $6.5 million, mostly because we used our cash to build a building, and our investments are down. 5 million, just because we're writing them to market. They're mostly short-term, if you looked at the financial statements, so they will mature, and you have the capacity to hold them to maturity, so you won't lock in those losses necessarily, if they're bonds. But the other always tricky thing is the deferred outflows, and this is related to the OPEBs. So I like to always kind of look at these together, because what happens is you have deferred outflows and net pension liabilities and deferred inflows. The bottom two are liabilities, so they're on the bottom half of the financial statements. So for both of those categories, so at first I looked at the pensions and I thought, wait a minute, net pension liability went down $11.5 million. That's kind of a lot, right? But what, deferred inflows went up 8.3. And both of those are liabilities, so they kind of overall net. Then I had to, I know you all didn't have to do this, I had to go read the ACFR, the financial statements for the TRS, to see what the difference is. And what I found was, when we say net pension liability, it's the net of the assets they hold less the liabilities based on the actuary report of what you're going to pay for pensions at some point in time. So that $10 million flip is based on measurement date of August 31st, 2021. So what happened last year at August 31st, 2021? How were the capital markets at that point? So it's not actually that the liability has gone up, it's just that the assets have increased significantly, and they had a rate of return as of August 2021 of 25% in their report. So that's why that net number is different. Well, for actuaries, what they do is the deferred inflow part of it, that's sort of taking that gain that you had this year, and they revise their assumptions. So they're taking that gain. So, we had a rate of return of 25% this year. We're not going to do that every year. I mean, I wish, but probably we already know this year this might totally reverse. So they take that over 10 years. So that's why you're kind of capturing it back in the deferred inflows. So that's how that works on the pension side. And then you go, okay, what about OPEBs? What's the difference there? Because they actually went up, net OPEB liability. Difference, it's not funded. OPEBs is pay as you go. So they have a little bit of assets. I think it was less than 1% in that net OPEB liability when I looked at theirs. So that's basically one number that kind of flip-flops around and changes your balance sheet. Do you have any questions?
I do. So on the pension, we have a defined benefit plan. What's the return on it? Is it a 7% or?
I think it's in the footnotes. What is the discount rate being used?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's with TRS, so we're just a component of that. And
Okay.
I think it is 7.25%, because you're actually absolutely right. I looked, because that's my first thing is, what did we do to discount rates? It didn't really change on the pension.
So do we have I know after 2008, they had that problem where basically it created a structural deficit in the pension when equities values dropped so much. And basically they went back to everybody and said, you need to pay more at the same time property tax values fell and everything like that. So does the reforms the state did where if the portfolio returns greater than the guaranteed amount, do we get credited with that? Do you know?
I want to say, like, as a group, the actuaries calculate based on these assets and what the liability is and your census. It's not you get credit, but you have a percentage of the total pie.
Right. We've got, well, yeah, we have to have a certain amount funded in, but they made a change where it was like if the assets return 10%, then that would go to the government side of what they were underfunded. Because I noticed we're having pretty large swings in percentage of funding over the past couple of years, and I assume that's what it is.
And I don't know that I've read the complete report, but
I caught you?
for my but I'm happy to have that with you later. I have
Okay,
to
I know
look
where
it
you
up. I
live.
really don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I'm
just wondering if we're funding our pension at the appropriate level. And I know there's variation, and this year's one of those years where it's, you don't plan or budget for the market to go down 10%. And so you have to catch up after that.
Correct. And it's a big system, the Texas retirement system, which schools and all the school districts. As you'll see, actually in the footnotes, it does have a lot of information in note 11 about all the details there.
All right, I'll stop.
And I am
now.
so glad that you're asking a question, because I found out a long time ago, when you're a CPA, no one really wants to know about your job.
They made me read it, so.
And in full disclosure, I've known him since he was like 10 years old, when his family took scuba diving lessons at CC Divers.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, and then on the other side of the balance sheet, the liabilities, they decreased by $16.2 million. We talked already about OPEBs, but the biggest thing, of course, is you paid down $15.1 million in your bond principal. So we come to our overall net position. So net position is your equity, and it's increased by 9.7 compared to last year. It's kind of interesting. It's the operating loss. You have your operating income, your net non-operating, and it's a net operating, not net non-operating revenues. While your overall, normally you have a loss on your operating side. So that's before taxes. That's before your real estate taxes and some other grants. So you have a loss this year of 108, and that's 108 million compared to the prior year. You only lost 101 million. So it's just a $7 million difference. On the net non-operating revenue, you have a gain of 117 versus a gain of 123, so it kind of goes in the same direction. So that's basically a $6 million decrease in your non-operating revenue. And so overall, you've year over year, you have a $6.3 million revenue. So it's 13 total. So the decreases, as you all know, there's a decrease in tuition and fees, and that's offset by a huge increase in federal grants and contracts, mostly HERF. So we've heard that. So that's on the top part of the income statement. In operating revenue, $13.5 million. And then also, there's one local grant that decreased by about $2 million, the Gulf Coast Growth Ventures. On expenses for operating, salaries increased $4.4 million, $4.5 million. Employee benefits decreased, also because of that change, mostly in the OPEB and the pension payment that comes from comes from the state. And then other costs increased by $14.2 million. It's a combination of things. A big part of it is also on that side, you have 8.1, which is funded by the CARES Act. So overall non-operating revenues decreased by $6.9 million. And as you can see on the bottom, there's the primary reason for that is a big part of it is the investment income. So you have like a swing of $5 million there. On the non-operating side, your state appropriations increased slightly. Ad valorem taxes increased by $3.3 million, mostly because of increases in property values. Your federal revenue decreased by $6.5 million, and this is mostly COVID funding. So it's COVID funding that's included in non-operating as COVID funding that goes to students. So it's covering some of that 14.4 increase that we had in expenses that relates to student services. And then, of course, your investment income decreased by $4.4 million, which includes that $5 million write down. Okay, so in addition to the financial statements that we're expressing our opinion on. We also have 3 other audit opinions because you receive federal and state grants. One is the internal control over financial reporting, and we're required to report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance and other matters. And I'm happy to say that we did not identify deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting that we consider to be material weaknesses, and that the results of our tests disclose no instances of noncompliance or other matters that we would be required to report to you. And then in addition to that, we're also due the 2 reports, one for major federal grants and one for state grants that are tested. So I have this terrible looking report here, which I always think summarizes it. Oh, thank you, whoever did that. Did I do that? Whew, if only I knew how to do that. But anyway, you know, this is kind of a nice place in the report to have a summary of the findings for the federal grants and the state grants, because if there's nothing more exciting than the audit opinion on the financial statements, this part, I know I lose a lot of you. It's showing you basically whether we had identified any weaknesses, and also the particular grants that we selected for testing. There's a required calculation and percentages and details, and each one of those is there's something called the compliance supplement that outlines the specific things we have to test for, and there is a ton of work that goes into that, and so you should be very proud that I'm not reporting any material weaknesses or any findings on the grants. And there's also a report specifically for the state related to that. So I'm going to kind of go through those and just kind of sum it up. And I want to say we didn't find anything that would require us to be expressed in a management letter. And I want to talk a little bit about GFOA. So the GFOA is a Certificate in Excellence for Financial Reporting. And in this year, you may have noticed in the transmittal that the college has not gotten it yet. And the reason is not the college. That's what I wanted to say. So the reason is that the GFOA consists of, it's a national organization. They have a reviewing process which depends on volunteers. And there are people like me that go through that 48-page checklist that Adam went through. And I want to say he started at 4 a.m. just the other day. So he went through that, and the reviewers are behind, and that's why it hasn't been issued yet, and they're expecting it in the next couple of weeks. That's also one of the reasons why we're so diligent, and why you always hear CPAs whining. I'm not going to whine to you, I promise. But the reason we're whining is it's called standards documentation overload fatigue. And what that means is our current standard for documentation is if you think it, ink it. And they don't let us have a GoPro camera on our head. So we're checklist, making sure, crossing the T's, making sure everything is in that report so that the next reviewer, which if you're the last, might be the GFOA, that you all will continue to get that thing and that report and have a certificate for excellence once again. So I really want to say thank you. There was no snow, but this year for me was sort of like walking uphill all day long every day. And I just want to say thanks to the staff, Raul, John Johnson, Kathy, y'all are spread out today, Jackie, everyone that so diligently worked to get this audit done. And probably most of all, I'm thankful to Adam Miller, my boots on the ground guy that really managed this for me this year. So thank you all. Any questions? Okay. Good.
Thank you, Bridget. We appreciate you being here. We do need to take action to accept the 2022 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Thank you, Mr. Loeb, made the motion. Second by Dr. Adami. Jumped in there. Way to go, David. Any questions on that motion? Is there any public comment on that motion? Motion is to adopt the 2022 Annual Comprehensive Financial Annual Report for fiscal year ending August 31st, 2022 and 21. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. That motion passes. The board is now going to go into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 regarding pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offer with possible discussion and action in open session, and the seeking of legal advice from counsel on pending legal or contemplated matters or claims with a possible discussion and action in open session, and under Texas Government Code 551.074 regarding the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including the letter of resignation submitted by Regent Villarreal and the at-large Regent vacancy with possible discussion and action in open session. The time is 3:35 p.m. We'll take a brief break to clear the room. All right, the board has come back from closed session at 4:13 p.m. We have the sad occasion to need to take action to accept the resignation of Dr. Linda Villarreal effective January 1st, 2023. Dr. Villarreal has been a very significant part of our board in the short time that she's been with us. And I'm going to let her explain her upcoming situation, but we'll look for a motion to accept the resignation of Dr. Villarreal and to adopt a process to fulfill her appointment as discussed in closed session. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Averett. Is there a second by Dr. Adami? Linda, we're going to love on you for a minute. You really have been a fabulous member of this board, and I want to thank you for your service to Del Mar College. In fact, I ran into, do you remember Bradley Ebersol, who did our strategic planning session last year? I ran into him in New York when we were there, and he was asking about the board and how it's doing, and he asked about Mr. Bennett, and how's Linda doing? So you made an impression nationwide in the community college world with your intelligence and your just your great questions and your connection to public education. So we're gonna miss you greatly, Linda.
It's been an honor to serve, and I've always known the greatness of Del Mar, but to be able to see it in action from a different point of view, to be able to listen to staff reports, even the audit today, those kind of things don't just happen. You know, we could listen for 10 or 15 minutes and get this report, but that's because of a lot of hard work and quality work by your staff. I mean, just unbelievable. As a community member, you know, I knew Del Mar was great, but as a regent, I could see it firsthand. I have an opportunity. I'm in my 64 years, what I finally realized is you never know what's going to happen from day to day. And I was contacted by the president of Texas A&M Kingsville, the new president, and he asked if I would be interested in being the dean for the College of Education and Human Performance. And literally, you know, my jaw dropped. There was a lot of laughter, probably nervous laughter, if anything. I've been retired for 10 years. And I said no. I said, you know, no. And about the fifth call on the fifth day, you know, I said, well, let me think about it. And I mean, it's a tremendous undertaking, a lot of work. But it's work that I'm passionate about. I remember when I stood before y'all and I told you that my greatest loves are, you know, being a mom and being a Christian and being a teacher. And this college it produces teachers. And so I know that the impact that it has not only in our community, our state, or even our nation when our kids, our students go out and go into classrooms. So I'm taking it on, not reluctantly, but very cautiously because I've been out of the field for a while. So I talked to Dr. Escamilla, who I just greatly admire and have so much admiration and love. I just do. And we talked a little bit, and I said, I just don't know how I can do both. I don't know how I can work full-time and then when we have meetings to be able to be here all day and so forth. And we talked a little bit more about it. And I just think that, in life, as they say, you're either there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And maybe I was here for a short season or for a reason, but even though my time will be now gone from the board, I'll never leave Del Mar or any of you all. I have a tremendous amount of respect. And to all my fellow Regents, you all are just amazing people. And just to be able to know y'all and to call you a friend is something that I'll always treasure. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Our process to try to reluctantly replace Linda is going to be to accept, we'll do a formal announcement of the vacancy on Wednesday, January 4th, and we will have applications due on Friday, January 27th. We will look for an opportunity to interview interested candidates on Tuesday, February the 14th. We do not have exact times yet, but that will be publicized soon. And we intend to interview those candidates, make a selection, and swear in the new candidate that day on Tuesday, February 14th is our plan. Are there other comments or questions about the motion? Anybody else want to love on Linda a little bit more? Bill?
I do, yes. As your neighbor here on the dais, I think I've gotten the benefit from your insight about education, maybe more than my other partners. So I'll tell you, from personal level, I'm going to miss you greatly. And I wish you luck. Thank you.
All right, with no other comments, oh yes, Mr. Garza.
Linda, I'm going to miss you a lot. I've known Linda since she was a little girl. I was a sophomore in high school when I met her sisters and became great friends with her mom. And she was twirling for middle school, Driscoll Middle School. But her coming on the board, I think, just gave great balance and insight in terms of what an educator's role is and what we need to look for in order to be able to help the college achieve its mission. And it's just been great seeing you all this time that we've served. Not enough time. It's been a short visit, but appreciate you serving with us. Thank you.
All right, then, all those in favor of thank you, Mr. Counsel. Are there any public comments on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. With one abstention, that's right. Thank you all very much. Again, Linda, we're going to miss you greatly. Our calendar for upcoming meetings. At this point in time, we will probably have a called meeting on January the 31st. We're going to confirm date and time and get that to you as soon as possible. We do have Community College Day in Austin on the 26th, and there is a CAT New Regent orientation that is not required and is not going to be a repeat of the Texas Open Meetings Act, et cetera. But there is a New Regent orientation on the 27th of January. February, Dr. Turner and I are planning to attend the National Community College Legislative Summit in Washington, D.C. As we've discussed, there's an opportunity for board members to attend one or the other of the national conferences. And so if there is someone else that would like to attend, let's have that conversation, because the early bird registration fees are, I think, maybe tomorrow or at the end of this week or something. So very, very quickly, if you are interested, let us know. We do have a board meeting scheduled for February 14th. And then there is a Board of Trustees Institute that the Texas Success Center is hosting February 21st, 22nd. The Texas Success Center pays for the CEO and for 2 regents or trustees from each college to attend, so there's no registration or lodging fees for someone to attend. You do have to pay your own travel to get there, which of course Del Mar would reimburse you for mileage. It's going to be at Lakeway in the Austin area. So if there is a regent, the Board of Trustees Institute is really data heavy. It does a lot of work on student success measurements and pathways, and really helps regents understand the data portion of what we do. So if
We've just been asked up there.
we've been asked to present there,
Just got
so.
just opened an email, so stay tuned.
Not sure who we is, but Dr. Escamilla and company has been asked to present at the Texas Success Center. So if you're interested in attending, please, let's have that conversation quickly. I think we do need to have a conversation, Delia, about the board meeting in March. You didn't include the calendar here, but our regularly scheduled board meeting is during spring break in March. So is your spring break the 13th through the 19th as well? Right. So I think we're going to have a conversation about the March board meeting and when we want to try to hold that. I'm not going to try to get everybody's calendars out today, but we've also talked about the potential for starting our board self-evaluation and kind of retreat process. Maybe that takes place over a couple of board meetings, but we'll work on that March schedule now. But I think we can count on the fact that March meeting will not be on March 14th. It would be at an alternate date. Anything else on our calendar we need to talk about? Happy holidays. Thank you all. Welcome, Mr. Loeb. We'd have to get Mr. Cruel sworn in, so I guess let us know when that occurs, and if you need us to come cheer him on or something, let us know, and we'll be happy to do that. With that, I hope everyone has a great holiday season. Hope our staff and our faculty and our students have a wonderful winter break, and look forward to seeing you all back after the first of the year. We are adjourned at 4:23 p.m.